Chapter 88. Yunjong's eyes narrowed as he looked around. There were none. He couldn't see a single one. Unlike yesterday, he couldn't see any of the second-class disciples that had frequently been tormenting them recently. Was it true? It's not that Yunjong didn't trust Chungmyung's words. As Jogul said, Chungmyung was a person who spoke nonsense but didn't lie. The problem was that Chungmyung's solution was far from the solutions that ordinary people would think of, so he thought that this would cause more trouble. He seems to have solved everything well. He had doubts about how it was solved, but he surely settled the matter. Sahyung, it seems like Chungmyung's words were true, right? Yunjong nodded at Jogul's words. But was it really plausible for things to be this simple? If we encounter problems with Sasuk, are we supposed to spar and defeat them to solve the problem? Even ignoring common sense, wasn't this abandoning the rules of the sect and coming up with their own way to solve the issue? The problem was that this madman's method actually worked. Just what is going to happen to Mount Hua in the future? Yunjong never thought of himself as a grumpy figure, but when he saw how Chungmyung behaved, he began to feel like being a grumpy old man wasn't such a bad thing. Wouldn't it be a beautiful world if that grumpy bastard could keep things in order? What are you thinking? I was thinking about the future of Mount Hua and what it feels like to be an old man. Did he finally lose his mind? Yunjong sighed, noticing how Jogul was looking at him with pitiful eyes. The third-class disciples, who were watching from the side, slowly approached Yunjong and spoke. The dorms seem a little strange today, Sahyung. I guess so. Why are they doing this? I'm worried that they're going to do something worse. Right. Yunjong looked up at the distant sky. These kids also aren't in their right minds anymore. To say that their Sasuk was beaten, such a thing would be unimaginable in Mount Hua before Chungmyung arrived. However, like Yunjong and Jogul, the third-class disciples also seemed to be getting influenced by Chungmyung's unreasonable teachings. If things continued like this, Mount Hua might be filled with people who behave like Chungmyung. Yunjong shuddered. He didn't want to imagine such a future. Just thinking about it is terrifying. The problem was that it seemed like this thought could very well become a reality. I'm more anxious because it's quiet. Shouldn't we sneak a peek? I don't think those idiots have come to their senses already. Doesn't it seem like they're up to something? Sahyung? Oh my god. Just where did the trust between fellow sect disciples go? It's noisy. Come and get ready for training. Yes. Saje, what is with his temper? Yunjong sighed deeply as he lamented how his juniors looked at him with that question burning in their eyes. Day by day, Mount Hua was turning away from the Mount Hua Yunjong once knew. Of course, this change wasn't necessarily bad, but he honestly felt that he didn't want to open his eyes and see the future that Chungmyung would create. Sahyung, then did Chungmyung really beat Baekchun Sasuk? Jogul asked softly so that the others wouldn't overhear, and Yunjong frowned. What are you even asking for? There's no way he would lie, and if it weren't for that, the seniors would still be harassing us today. No, that... Jogul scratched his head. I just can't understand it. No matter how strong Chungmyung was from the beginning, there's still a difference in the amount of time he and Baekchun Sasuk studied martial arts. Yunjong couldn't understand either. Does this make any sense at all? It made no sense, but wasn't Chungmyung always doing things that made no sense? Then Sahyung, Chungmyung is stronger than Baekchun, right? Why do you keep asking such obvious... Then what about compared to the Jongnam sect? Yunjong went silent. Compared to them. This was something Yunjong never thought about. Chungmyung shouldn't be inferior to the Jongnam sect either, right? He even defeated Baekchun Sahyung. Yunjong, with a stiff face, fell into thought. Then, in the conference this time, Gul, yes Sahyung. If Chungmyung wins, will it make a difference? Wouldn't things change? Yunjong shook his head. When a master expert is born in a sect, it's something to celebrate. However, a single master's reputation belongs solely to themselves. They can't do anything alone. The moment that Chungmyung disappears, Mount Hua will fall again like before. If we truly want to revive Mount Hua, we also need to become strong. We can't simply rely on Cheongmyeong. We won't be able to declare Mount Hua's revival until the day arrives when the world becomes unable to ignore any random disciple within the sect. Right. But as you said, I'm also curious about the conference. This time will be different. What do you mean? Cheongmyeong. Yunjong took a deep breath and said, will he truly become a hero that brings changes to Mount Hua? Or will he be a tyrant who reigns over this small Mount Hua? Yunjong and Jogul faced each other with serious eyes. Cheongmyeong. Seriously, get out of here! The two slowly turned their heads towards the sudden interruption. Cheongmyeong was swearing as he came down. Isn't that Senior Yu? Yu Yisol was chasing after Cheongmyeong, who was fleeing with his full might. Teach me! I already told you that I had nothing to teach. I told you not to come. You horrible leech! The Yu Maiden Sword. Go to Ungum Sasuk and ask him. He'll teach you. Ungum Sasuk is a man. The Yu Maiden Sword is a technique for women. It is a skill that Ungum Sasuk cannot handle. Then am I a woman? Huh? Am I a woman? Teach me. How do I get through to your mind? Cheongmyeong and Yu Yisol quickly passed between Yunjong and Jogul. The two, who were left behind, stared in bewilderment at the absurd sight. When did those two become so close? Does Senior Yu always talk this much? It seems that Yusago has spoken more in the past few days than she had in the entire time I've been in the sect. Actually, is it fine for that idiot to talk to Yusago like that? Well, he has always been arrogant. What you said earlier, whether he's a hero or a tyrant. Gul. Yes, Sahyung. Let's go, train. Yes. Baeksang's face crumpled. Sahyung, are you really going to leave it like that? Hearing the dissatisfaction in Baeksang's voice, Baekchon smiled. Why are you so angry? Aren't they acting too arrogantly? Especially that one, Cheongmyeong. He doesn't even show a shred of remorse. Isn't it alright to punish them now? Punish? You? Him? Someone like you? Huh? Nothing. Baekchon forced himself to smile. Although it had died down a little, his entire body throbbed in pain. Baekchon turned his eyes toward Cheongmyeong, who was fleeing from Yu Yisol. Sneaky son of a bitch. How could he beat a person so well without leaving any scars on the outside? The more he thought about it, the more absurd this guy seemed. Thankfully, he avoided being embarrassed in front of others, but he couldn't even complain about this injustice to anyone. He'd be treated like a madman if he tried to complain about his junior abusing him without even having any visible injuries. Or maybe he'd be treated as trash with no future prospects. Of course, even if there were wounds on his body, Baekchon would never tell anyone about how he was beaten like a dog. Still, he couldn't help but feel disappointed. Why did you suddenly tell us not to touch your third-class disciples? Baeksang. Yes, Sahyung. I just don't understand the reasoning behind it. The reasoning was to have a happy life. Baekchon was doing it to avoid getting hit again. But Baekchon could never speak his reasons out loud. He had a dignified image to maintain. Isn't the conference approaching? That's right. Baekchon spoke with a stern expression. I was dauntless. Ruling over the third-class disciples is something we can do at any time, but not the conference. Doesn't this event only occur once a year? Baeksang silently nodded. Seeing that Baeksang still wasn't fully satisfied, Baekchon narrowed his eyes. Governing the third-class disciples is an internal task, and the conference is external work which affects the honor of the Mount Hua Sect. The inside is important, but the outside is more urgent. Moreover, considering what happened in the conference last time, let's put aside everything else for now and concentrate on producing positive results. Everything is at stake this time. Don't you think so? Yes. Baeksang took a deep breath and lowered his head. Sahyung is right. I must have lost focus. I must have been out of my mind. And he was still out of his mind. Regardless, Baekchon was glad that Baeksang didn't press the issue any further. Weren't you the one that started this in the first place? Why are you pretending to be some nice guy now? If Baeksang had decided to ask that question, Baekchun would have been at a loss for an answer. Thanks for understanding. Let's not worry about the third-class disciples for now. Our first priority is to focus everything we have on the upcoming conference. Ask our sages to reflect on their martial arts and reflect on what they've refined during our closed-door training. Yes, Sahyung. Baeksang bravely gave a loud response. With that, Baekchun lowered his head with an expressionless face. Even after the end of the conference, I don't plan on touching those third-class disciples. Baekchun didn't want to see what would happen to him and his peers. Baekchun turned to look at Cheongmyeong off in the distance. We aren't the only ones who will be surprised. Perhaps, even more than Mount Hua, the Jongnam sect would be surprised. When he thought of the future, the pain of being beaten by Cheongmyeong slowly vanished. Never mind. It didn't vanish. It hurt more. It hurt down to the bone. Damn bastard. Why did you have to hit so thoroughly? Baekchun sighed and turned away. I just need to do what I can do. Although he felt that life became twisted because of Cheongmyeong, Baekchun's purpose to prove himself in the conference hadn't changed. Considering that the Jongnam sect would soon be coming to Mount Hua, he didn't have the time to behave selfishly now. This time, he must prove his worth. But Baekchun looked back. Why does he keep hanging out with Yu Same? He didn't like it. Baekchun glanced at them and headed to training while suppressing an uneasy feeling. The conference between Mount Hua and the Jongnam sect was fast approaching.